baby. I can tell the comment section is going to be a riot after this one. Guys, it's a couple of days after the Commanders have played, middle of the week. You know what that means. It's time for my top 5 Commanders hot takes. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Full Command Show. My name is Grant Mitchell, coming back at you with another weekly installment of the Hot Takes series. We're here in week 14, and in hindsight, I may have underestimated the enormity of creating 5 hot takes a week for 17 weeks. So it's 85 hot takes over the course of the season. That ended up being a little more difficult than I would have thought, especially since we haven't had a repeat yet. But I got 5 big ones. This isn't cold. This isn't mainstream takes. This isn't everybody shares this unanimous opinion. This isn't groupthink. These are hot takes. It's meant to be controversial. So if you don't like it, that's fine. You guys know how this works by now. As we go through the hot takes, we're going to ascend. We're going to go from cold takes as in, I'm keeping my distance, I don't think that's accurate, to the hot takes. Burning hot. Fish grease. Fresh off the oven. Those are the takes that I like. Those are the takes I'm buying into. So, guys, we're going to jump into those in just a moment. Before we do, though, actually a quick news update. So, me and my fiance are traveling out of state this weekend. We're going to scout some wedding venues. That includes on Sunday, and then we'll be traveling back on Monday. So, I'm going to try to get some videos out for you if possible at all. But I'll be honest, I love you guys. I really do. But picking the wedding venue does take a small bit of precedence. But I'm going to try my best to watch the Commanders game. At the very least, I will go back and look at the all 22 and the highlights and stuff like that if I can't watch it live. Try to get the 5 names out, 5 names to remember out on Sunday if possible. Maybe it's Monday. I don't know, but make sure that you are staying subscribed because I'll make sure to give you guys updates on that. On that note, do hit that subscribe button if you're new around here. Also, hit the like button on this video if you enjoy the content and join the Full Command Discord. The link is at the top of the description. I will send some updates on my whereabouts this weekend and there, and we will be able to continue the conversations about the games. I'm going to keep sending news just like I always do. And also, as we go through this video, you are going to see some community hot takes from the Discord. So if you would like to get your voice heard in one of the upcoming videos, make sure that you do join the Discord there by clicking the link below. Okay, so I've laid it out for you. You guys know how it goes. We're just going to jump right into it with hot take number 1.
Win 3 of 5.
There's 5 games left in the season. We got the Vikings, Giants, Eagles, Cowboys, and Eagles. And this hot take is that the Commanders will win 3 of their next 5 games. Right now, we're sitting here at 3-9, believe, right? Yeah, 3-9. Yes, we are 3-9. So that would mean we'd finish the season at 6-11. Which is obviously worse than any of us would have wanted when the season started, but it would going 3-2, having a winning stretch would reverse the fortunes we've been. I mean, we're on a 7-game losing streak right now. So this is a cold take, but it is a take for a reason. It has made this video for a reason, because if this was, we'll win 2 of the next 5, I would say that's kind of likely. Now, let me separate this. Let me distinguish this. Whether or not that's in our best interest, due to draft positioning mostly. Right now, if the draft were to happen today, we would be picking 6th. So whether or not it's a good thing for us to win games is a separate question. What I can say is that the defenses look more connected with Dan Quinn as the defensive coordinator. Now, I broke down my thoughts. I gave a lot more detail to this in my video yesterday. Go check that out if you missed it. I'm not saying that DQ has fixed the defense because we have not played good offenses. But the simple things, miscommunications, players looking like they know where they're supposed to be, I've seen that with Dan Quinn. So let's roll that over to the Vikings, whose offense is flat out horrible. A couple of weeks ago, I was looking at measures of QB efficiency, and of something like 846 quarterbacks since 2000, JJ McCarthy is 845. Only Jamarcus Russell was below him. So that's the cloth that JJ McCarthy is cut from. And in hindsight, actually, it's not even hindsight because I was saying this before the NFL draft. But now that we're a little removed, I'm sitting back and I'm laughing at all of you Michigan fans and all of you Vikings fans who thought this was a stroke of genius. I always say on this channel, my longtime subscribers have heard me say this countless times, people tell you what they think about you without having to say it. So when Michigan was going undefeated and winning a national championship game, and they didn't let JJ McCarthy throw the football, they were telling you what they thought of him. Yeah, he got drafted off of making a few nice plays on third down. And I know I've already got Michigan alum typing, well, they didn't need him to throw the football. Okay, well, if JJ McCarthy was a world beater, they wouldn't have needed to give the ball to Blake Corum. If they didn't need to lean on the defense, but because it was so good, they did. They didn't need to lean on the running game and the offensive line, but because they were so good, they did. If JJ McCarthy was that good, guess what? He would have been throwing the football, but they didn't let him. So we've seen what we got from JJ McCarthy. I think Carson Wentz is still on IR, and if he's not, he's Carson Wentz. Max Brosmer, UDFA from Minnesota, that worked great. No touchdowns, 4 interceptions last weekend. This Vikings team, they've had a couple of these games, and let me pull it up so that I can get you the exact numbers. They've had a couple of games where they just have not shown up to play. 26-0 last week to the Seahawks. 23-6 to the Packers before that. You got a 37-10 against the Chargers. You got a 22-6 against the Falcons. There's a legitimate chance that the Vikings score 7 or fewer points. Now, as I'm saying all this, the Commanders, this season, the Commanders have been the ultimate get-right spot, right? For all we know, JJ's going to come out and he's going to throw a ball. He's going to have a career day against us. But this Vikings offense, man, they are just terrible. And their defense is really good. It is. But you know what? We just put up 26 points. The offense looked pretty solid against the best defense in the NFL. So can they do it again? Why not? Especially if the Vikings offense is giving them literally nothing. So let's call that one game. Let's say we win this weekend. From that point on, you'd have to win 2 out of 4. The Giants defense is terrible. They are 2-11. And Jackson Dart can make plays, but he's also got no playmakers around him. And that guy's going to get himself killed. He went for 4 concussion checks in his first 7 games, ended up finally getting one, missed some time, comes back and just takes a ridiculous shot running up the sidelines. He should have just gone out of bounds. So let's say maybe we beat the Giants. Hey, nice little 2-game win streak. You got Eagles, Cowboys, Eagles. If Jayden Daniels is coming back, you can beat the Cowboys. Not saying it's likely, but you can. And then in week 18, if the Eagles rest all their starters, it's on the board that you win this game. So ultimately, I'm going cold because this team just has not shown me any sort of consistency, any reason to believe they would win 3 out of 5, regardless of who the opponents are. But I think these next 2 games are very winnable. And from that point on, you just got to win 1 of 3 for this to come true. Again, separate topic about if we want that to happen or not.
Ready for Jeremiyah Love.
Okay, warming up a little bit. Now, this is an interesting one, and this is an opinion that I've seen gaining more and more support from Commanders community. So I want to address this. So who is Jeremiyah Love? Well, he's a Notre Dame running back who's probably going to receive an invitation to the Heisman ceremony. Probably is not going to win it. But the 4 guys who are going to be making their way to New York, that's where it's held, right? New York. Going to be Fernando Mendoza, Julian Sayin, Jeremiyah Love, and Diego Pavia. That's going to be your 4. I think Love is going to finish 4th in voting, but he's a very good player. He's averaging over 7 yards per carry, I think. He's nowhere near the level Ashton Jeanty was last year. He also hasn't received the same workload as him, and he's arguably been just as explosive if you look at his big plays. He's also probably a bit of a better pass catcher, even though Jeanty had a background as a receiver. Now, I think Jeanty's better down to down, but Love is that game breaker who, lightning in a bottle, unleash him a little bit faster, a little bit better in open field, and he can get gone very quickly. So the reason that I title this take Ready for Jeremiyah Love is that the Raiders, speaking of Ashton Jeanty, weren't ready for him. They spent the 6th pick on the draft on him. He goes there. They've got a brand new coach, whole new staff, disappointing defense that has actually played all right this year, but it's not great. A middle school level offensive line. They let go of Jacoby Myers. Devontae Adams obviously isn't there anymore. Geno Smith leads the NFL in interceptions. The structure wasn't there. The system wasn't there for a running back to succeed. Because of the Commanders' recent improvement in the offensive line, Jeremiyah Love, if he were drafted by the Commanders, would not be going into the same situation that Ashton Jeanty was. Terry looks like he's back in shape. He will be 31 next year, but he looks solid for now. Treylon Burks might be giving us some receiver depth. We have cap space. We can go sign some players. Love is the playmaker that can create those just chunk explosive plays out of nothing in the backfield and as a receiver out of the backfield that the Commanders don't currently have. Now, this is my counter, and this is why this is still on the colder side of the temperature scale. He doesn't play defense. He just doesn't. And I don't say things to then turn my back on them a week or two later. Now, if we have new evidence, if I'm proven wrong, or if the evidence shows something and there's reason for my opinion to change, somebody points something out to me, I will do that. But I'm not going to just ride both sides of the fence just for the sake of making videos. I have been as consistent as anybody in saying we need to draft defense. And to the best player available conversation, let's say the Commanders trade back off of 6. Let's say we actually do end up picking 6. Jeremiyah Love would not be the best player available at 6. Respect to him, great player, but he's not the 6th best player. If we trade back off of 6 to 14, and Jeremiyah Love is the best player available there, I understand the best player available argument. My counter to that would be he doesn't play defense. So what does that mean? Doesn't mean you draft a defensive player at 14 because you're not getting value. I am all about value, whether it be contracts, trade packages. Heck, Arvell Reese potentially getting drafted first overall. Shout out to John from the Ballin' and Burgundy podcast. I was listening to them talk about this yesterday. The thing with drafting Arvell Reese first, and I'm an Arvell Reese guy, is he's making probably $12 to $13 million a year on his rookie deal. The top paid linebackers in the NFL make 20. I think Zach Bond's getting 15. So although he's a rookie, quote unquote, on a rookie deal, he's actually already getting top dollar. Whereas if you draft a quarterback, they can make $60 million. Draft an edge rusher, they can make $47 million. Draft a receiver, they can make $40 million. So there's more bang for your buck if you take one of those players earlier in the draft, one of those positions. So what I would say here with Jeremiyah Love is if he's the best player available at 14, you trade back off of it. Trade back to 17 and take David Bailey or Matayo Uiagalelei, whoever it might end up being. That's just my stance on the matter. We have too many holes. And we've gone through far too many games saying if only the defense could do something to help the offense out. Now, Love would make us like the Lions 3 to 4 years ago, where now Love could make us like the Lions 3 to 4 years ago, where they're scoring 35 points a game and they're going 8-9. And that would look fun. And it does set us up for a future if we get the defense right. But I'm not going to change my opinion. I still think there are far too many holes on the defense. So Jeremiyah Love, as great as he is, not for me in this upcoming draft.
Kliff is overhated.
Going to read you some numbers here. These are the ranks that belong to the Commanders this season. 8th in success rate, 11th in EPA per play, 12th in yards per play, 22nd in points per game. Now, the points per game is obviously disappointing, but the rest of the numbers are very good. We also have very good red zone scoring. Our third down efficiency has trended up as the season has gone on. There's a difference between being stupid and not being exceptional. There's a difference between being terrible and not being the best offensive coordinator in the NFL. Kliff has got his problems. The running back usage stuff, I talked about this a lot in my last 5 names to remember. We turned Jeremy McNichols into Adrian Peterson with his workload in the second half and overtime. He falls in love with the bubble screens too much. I hate when he forgets that he can run the football. He's got his problems, but the numbers don't lie. All things considered, losing a starting quarterback, losing a number 1 receiver, a number 2 receiver, a number 3 receiver, a tight end, your best blocking tight end, offensive line changes, despite 7th round rookie starting running back, despite all of that, the Commanders have had a better than league average offense. So Kliff's got his problems. And if you want to assert that the Commanders want to be contenders and Kliff is not a contending level offensive coordinator, then I can get down with that. We can have a conversation from that basis. From that perspective. Sorry. But if you read some of the way people talk about him, if you read the way people talk about him online, in comments, on Twitter, wherever you go online, People talk about Kliff as if he's an idiot. And that's just not the case. I want to stick up for him because it could be a lot worse. Right now, I'm looking at the standings. Actually, why don't I sort this by division? And I can just go through here and name offensive coordinators I would want more than Kliff. McDaniels is doing a good job in New England. McDaniel, if he gets fired as head coach, would be great, but that's probably not going to happen. Cowboys OC looks to be doing a pretty good job. I definitely don't want what's going on in New York or Philadelphia. LaFleur's the play caller for the Packers. He's the head coach, so can't get him. O'Connell, I think he's the guy with the Vikings. The Lions already fired their guy, Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson's calling plays, right? So Bears are out of the picture. I'm not going to go through the entire NFL, but there are less than 10 OCs that I would want ahead of Kliff. Now, if we get head coach firings again, like Mike McDaniel, for example, or the crazy timeline where Matt LaFleur is fired, yeah, they would be great offensive coordinators. But as far as coordinators right now, Kliff, in my eyes, is probably about 10th, right about 10th best in the NFL, and he's done a good job. I mean, he got Jayden Daniels to the year. He got him last year, and Jayden played a part in that himself. But we've also seen Kliff and the offense sustain some level of success despite all of the injuries. So sticking up for Kliff here, not saying I want him around for the long term. One of my hot takes a few weeks ago was actually that it was best for us to move on from Kliff, but I'm also not gonna slander him. He's actually done a pretty solid job, and people talk about him in the wrong light.
Sainristil needs to play outside.
Well, he certainly seems to play better outside, that's something for a 5'8" slot corner. We didn't expect this. Here's my problem on this. Now, I've left this as a pretty warm take because the evidence is certainly pointing to that conclusion. But this is the problem that I have. I still can't figure out a fair evaluation for him. He moved outside a couple of weeks ago, and he has played better. But here's the confounding variable in that. That's at the same time that Joe Witt Jr. lost his duties as the defensive coordinator. So right now, I don't like, how do I put this? I don't like believing that everything is not connected. When similar results happen and there's one thing that binds them, I don't like how we just point to each connected part as an individual. That's a complicated way to say what I'm trying to say here, but if Joe Witt Jr. was the source of all of our frustrations, that's where everything went wrong, right? We needed to fire him, move on from him, whatever. Dan Quinn comes in. Dan Quinn, very good defensive coordinator over the course of his career. DQ comes in. Defense looks a lot better. So Sainristil moved outside at that same time DQ comes in. So Sainristil playing outside looks a lot better. Absolutely. Of course. Most confidence I've seen him play with this season. I think that was evident from the way he was tackling in the most recent game. He looked pretty confident to me. Looked like he was certain of where he was supposed to be. But if we blame Joe Witt for the entire defense underperforming, if Sainristil was still playing in the slot, wouldn't he be playing a lot better with DQ as the coordinator as well? That's why it's so difficult for me, because he came into the NFL, didn't look great. So move him outside out of necessity. Doesn't look great, but he does get better as the season goes on. It was a baptism by fire, got torched by Jamar Chase, but then he gets better and better. We start this year and he moves inside and he looks awful again, but the whole defense is awful. So they push him back outside and he looks better, but the whole defense looks better. Trey Amos is playing outside on one side. We know that. Who's getting the other spot? This is ultimately my conclusion on this. And maybe in some ways this makes a better title for the hot take, but couldn't figure out a way to combine it into something cool and concise. My honest answer about the fate of Mike Sainristil, I think it depends on who they sign and who they draft. They did this with Brandon Coleman. They said, hey, dude, you're playing left tackle. Get ready. And then they trade for Laramie Tunsil. Brandon, my man, left tackle, just slide it on over to right. Just flip it. You're in the mirror, flip sides. Oh, by the way, we drafted Josh Conerly Jr. in the first round. Hey, Brandon, why don't you go play guard? They've done that before. So Sainristil, having demonstrated the ability to play inside and out, now at what level, we're not totally sure, but he has done both a pretty significant amount in his young career. If they draft a 6'2 corner, hey, Mikey, you're going inside. If they draft D'Angelo Pons from Indiana, who's 5'9", one of them's got to play inside, one of them's got to play outside, and they'll figure it out. So ultimately, I like what I've seen from Mikey outside. I do think he's been better out there, but I don't really know where he's supposed to play. I don't think there is a definitive answer on that one just yet. If you do, go to the comment section and let me know. And before we get to my final hot take, let's get some hot takes from the Full Command Discord. Again, link to join that at the top of the description of this video below. Let's hear from 3-1, who says, Burks makes the roster next year as the new Noah Brown slot. We re-signed Debo for a 2-year deal, make big offseason moves to get unhappy wide receivers from other teams, maybe Neighbors, Jefferson, Ayuk, or BTJ. We keep Mariota with a new 2-year deal. C-Rod gets a new deal. DQ finds a defensive coordinator he trusts for in-game play calls. Who knows? Kliff leaves, and nobody cares because his play calling is atrocious. Miraculously, we never run Wildcat again. Very funny there. And let's get one more from Lazarus. We trade back with the Jets, Rams, or Browns since the Browns are against the Titans this week, and we get 2 first-round picks since they're QB-needy teams. I'm including Rams as a QB-needy team since Stafford is getting up there in age. Also, our big signing this year in free agency will be a linebacker, Lloyd or Walker. So guys, again, if you want to get your hot takes featured in an upcoming video, make sure that you do join the Discord below. And let's get to my final hot take, which is...
Don't touch the O-line.
You're about to get another great look at these guys against another tough defense of the Vikings. Now, last week we took on the Broncos, who might have the best defense in the NFL. They had generated pressure on more than 40% of pass plays. That was the highest in the NFL. We held them to 18. A lot of that was because the ball came out of Mariota's hands quickly. But even on the plays where the Broncos generated pressure, it was the 5th longest time to pressure of any team in the NFL that week. So that takes out the quick throw aspect of it. That's just, hey, we're sitting back here. How long did it take you to get pressure? Commanders still did a very good job of holding up. So their season rankings for the year, the Commanders rank 9th in yards before contact per carry. A lot of that is an offensive line stat. And 12th in pressure rate allowed, which is getting better. Josh Conerly Jr. specifically gotten a lot better. Again, I outlined a lot of his improvement in yesterday's video, so check that out if you want to see. Laramie Tunsil has been consistent all year. Think he's looking at an all-pro year here, Pro Bowl, hopefully at the least. Sam Cosmi, back to his Pro Bowl self. Very dominant game from him last week. Did not give up a pressure. Really good in the running game. And if the offensive line is staying, that means that Chris Paul needs an extension because he is a free agent. So if they're not going to touch the offensive line, and this is my hottest take of the week, if they're not going to touch it, that means that they need to give CP an extension. Bring him back, and that will be your core 5. So I'm going to get on out of here. But before I do, obviously, you got to leave me your thoughts on all of these hot takes. But to this one specifically, do you think Chris Paul should be back? And if not, who should the Commanders be looking at to potentially replace him? And that includes rookies. If you think we should draft a guy, make sure that you do go down to the comment section below and let me know. So guys, I am getting ready to wrap this up and head on out of here. It's called Hot Takes. They're controversial for a reason. It's to stir up drama. So as always, leave me your thoughts below. Hit the like button on this video if you enjoyed. Hit that subscribe button if you are new around here. I appreciate you all joining me, and I will catch you in the next one. Have a great day.